If you've ever tried to clean a fish tank before, you're probably familiar with something like this. This is a gravity-fed siphon which vacuums out the gravel in the bottom of the tank. It also takes the water out of here and puts it into here. Now, this is kind of nice and kind of convenient if you have a smaller tank, maybe 10 or 15 gallons. But like this 36-gallon tank here, if you're using this method to change your water and clean your gravel, you're making several trips back and forth to the sink or the toilet or wherever you're dumping the water. So today, I'm going to show you the tricks and the tips that I use, as well as the tools that I use to clean this 36-gallon tank and save myself a lot of time, a lot of hassle, and a lot of mess. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do before you do any work on the tank is kill the power. You've got a couple things in here that if you run them dry, like the filter, the pump, and the heater, they're gonna burn up once you take the water out of here. So do yourself a favor, cut the power. I've got the entire fish tank set up on a TP-Link switch, so one simple flip of the smartphone, and it's off. That's step one. Now step two is easy enough. I've got a towel laid down on the floor here that you can't see, it's off frame. You get everything off the top here. So remove the light, which is LED. Unplug it from the switch, set it aside. And then we're gonna grab the top of the tank. Now this is where you're gonna start to notice if it's dirty and kind of needing to clean. Those are algae bubbles down there on the bottom. So that's one surefire way to let yourself know that it is time to clean the tank. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna set it on the towel. Just to get it out of the way for right now. All right, now this is where things are gonna start to get a little bit gross. I've unplugged my filter from the power strip down below, and I've got to reach in there and pull it out. Always have a towel handy as well, because this is gonna leak. There's 4 suction cups stuck to the back of this, and I've always found it easier just to try to pop the whole unit off those suction cups, because a lot of times they don't like to come off the glass. Now when you pick this up, you're gonna see a lot of sediment coming out. Let it drain and try to keep it upright, because if you tilt it sideways, all that sediment is going to dump back into the tank, and we're trying to get that out of there. All right, so we're going to take this to the sink and go on to the next step. Now this is where the first star of the show is going to come in. It's kind of hard to see on the video, but all that green stuff stuck between the rocks and the glass, that is algae buildup. And as I come up here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on film, but there's quite a bit of algae built up on the glass. If I was gonna do a full clean, I would take all of the rocks and all of the plants out of there and clean all that today. But I did a full clean last time I did this tank, so I will do that again next time. This time I'm just gonna show you how to use some of the tools. So, a little better shot there. Step one is to get all of the algae off of the glass. And I'm gonna show you a pretty cool little trick for that. So to get the algae off the glass, you've got a couple of different ways that you can do it. You could go old school and put your hand in there with a rag and just wipe everything down until you think you get all of it. But that does require your arms getting pretty wet. You also want to take some of the water out probably before you do that. Second step you could do is get a little scrub brush like this. Probably buy that at your local pet store or buy it on Amazon. It goes in there, but again, with this tank, the problem is it only goes so far, and we need to get clear down into the gravel bed. Now, if I drain some water out, I could do that, but you don't want to leave the heater off in these tropical tanks for too long, because the fish will die. So the quicker that we can get this thing scrubbed, get the water in and out, the better. So let me introduce you to the Aquarium algae magnet. Now, this little guy is a lifesaver. I'll post a link to it in the description below. It's like 12, 13 bucks on Amazon. Absolutely worth every penny. You put one side on the inside of the glass, and then the magnet stays out here with you. And you notice that it sticks. And all you do is you make long sweeping motions with the magnet across the glass. Back and forth. Now, in the event that this magnet falls off, it does have a weight that will always make sure that it lands facing up, so you can quickly grab it off the bottom using the magnet. It's a very strong magnet, so sweeping motions just like this back and forth. The thing I really like about this is that once you get down to the gravel bed, you can use it to kind of dig through the gravel a little bit. Go back and forth. Dig through the gravel and get all that algae that's stuck between the glass and the gravel. Oh, like right there I just lost it, but it's pretty easy to grab it again. We're just gonna move that gravel, do some scrubbing down there. You're gonna kick up a lot of sediment doing this, and that's okay. Part of cleaning this tank is that you wanna get all that crap out of the rocks at the bottom so you can suck it up in your filter, which that's really neat, and I'm gonna show you that here in a bit. All right, welcome to the kitchen. So back in the sink here now, we've got a couple things we need to rinse out. First and foremost, the gravel magnet, or the algae magnet. Run some hot water over it, and that algae will come out pretty quick. And then just set it up here to dry. Now our filter. So the filter has been resting in here and draining out a little bit. These are the suction cups off the back, so I'm gonna pop that right now. But if you notice, this thing is pretty coated with algae. It's pretty gross. So we need to disassemble the filter, and any filter that you have will be a little bit different. This is a top fin. I picked it up off Amazon as well. I'll put the link below, as I will with pretty much everything I'm touching today. But disassemble this according to the manufacturer's instructions, and then we'll show you what's inside. All right, so I cut the tape there because this thing's honestly a pain in the butt to get apart, and I didn't want you to hear me cussing and screaming at it. So now that we've got it apart, we've got two parts here, the pump and then the media. So the media actually has two parts as well. So if we pop this open, you're going to see that there's a media portion, and then there's also a portion that has some activated charcoal in it. So once I get this apart here, I'll be able to show you that. Again, these things are not easy to pull apart, but that's probably by design. All right, little butter knife action. So inside here you see the two compartments. This is the media, this is the activated charcoal filters, and as you can tell, it's pretty dirty. So every couple of washes I will change this media out. Otherwise, you can boil it or you can rinse it off really well and reuse it, but this stuff has pretty much run its course. Inside of here, there's activated charcoal, which again, this has pretty much run its course. So I'm going to throw this stuff all away. I'm gonna save these, and then I'm gonna scrub this thing up really well, and then I'll show you the next part. Okay, so it's probably a good time to say right now that you never ever wanna use any chemicals while cleaning your fish tank. Any soap, any chemicals, anything you use can and probably will kill your fish. So I bought a dish brush that was designated just for this, and some hot water and some elbow grease. That will take out 99% of the stuff that you're ever going to encounter in your fish tank. So no chemicals, no soap, just hot water and some scrubbing. There are several different types of filters you can get, especially for a mid-sized tank like mine, and I want to tell you why I'm using this type. So a lot of different filters that you use, you have to go to the pet store or online and buy filter replacement packages specifically designed just for that filter, and those get expensive fast because, just like anything, they're proprietary and they can fetch top dollar for them. So I like this one because it takes a little bit more work to clean it, but a big jug of filter media and a big jug of activated carbon. This is dirt cheap when you consider how many of these I can fill using just this. I can get 4 or 5 filter changes out of these two components. The charcoal was a lot further than that, but this is so much cheaper than trying to buy individual filter packets for some proprietary filter. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna fill these little green guys up with activated charcoal, and then we're gonna fill this guy up with media and get it put back together. Now, within the filter here, we're going to stack the activated charcoal filters. Put those back in like that. Then we're gonna fill this side with the media. Now, one thing you'll notice with the media is that it does have some dust to it generally. You can get all sorts of different sizes and shapes. I like these little round pellets. I found that they tend to last longer, and I think they do a better job. So once you get that in here, run some cold water over the media just to get all the dust off, and then run it over your charcoal filter as well. That'll get the actual charcoal to activate. Voila! Now we've got a clean filter ready to go back into the tank after we clean the tank. All right, so for the next step, it actually brings us into the bathroom of all places. Now, it's not about to get weird, don't worry. But over my time of changing various different sizes of aquariums, I realized that sometimes simplicity requires a little bit of ingenuity. So I scoured the web for a product that I could use that would eliminate the need for a bucket and a siphon filter, and I found this. This is the Aquarium water changer. Now, I will tell you, I'm not sponsored by Aquarium. They just they make really cool stuff. So I bought a lot of it. All of the links will be in the description below if you decide you want to purchase one of these. This will absolutely save you so much time, so much headache, and so much mess. What this does is it has 25 feet of hose attached to it. You hook up one end to your faucet. It uses the siphoning ability of the faucet running through this little attachment here, and it pulls the water out of the tank, lets you vacuum the gravel, and it puts the water in the sink right there. No muss, no fuss, no hassle. So let me show you how this works. So when you buy this thing, it comes with a lot of different adapters for various different sinks. Mine uses this portion of the adapter, so I'll show you how this works. Take off your aerator from the bottom of the sink, just screw it off. Set it aside. This little attachment screws up into there. Should have matching threads. I always do it hand tight. I don't need to go crazy tight on it because if it leaks, it's gonna leak in the sink. So next part, you screw this nozzle onto here. This is attached to the 25 feet of hose, and that's it. When you turn the faucet on, you have two modes. You have fill and you have drain. Right now we're on the drain mode. So what happens is when the water from the faucet is turned on, it's gonna create a vacuum in here, and you can control it with this knob here. So when you're trying to get to the tank, you can go on, you can go off. So easy enough. If you turn this on, there's a vacuum right here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna run this into the tank, and it's going to suck all the water out of the tank and deposit it here in the sink. So I'll show you how this works. All right, so check this out. This is the other end, which is our gravel vacuum and our actual water input. So once I turn this thing to on, you might be able to hear that suction. Regardless, here's how it works. We're gonna put it into the tank. We're gonna shake it a few times to kind of prime that top part. And then you'll see the water start to flow down that tube, and you are now removing water from your tank. All right, so with the gravel vacuum here, we just simply kind of punch it into the gravel like this. And it's kind of hard to see on the video, but there's a bunch of sediment getting pulled up into that vacuum right now. And this is taking the sediment off the bottom, and it's also kind of kicking it up a little bit to get it into the water. And the point of that is to, as you're draining the water, it's gonna pull that dirty water out. Now, when you do a water change, you never wanna change more than half of your tank. And if you haven't done it for a while, you actually wanna do less than that. So I would absolutely have you, if you've never done a tank water change before, do some researching on your type of fish, your type of tank, the ecology, biology of it, how long it's been set up. There's a lot of parameters that go into how much water you should actually remove. I usually try to go just about half every time I do this. Now, I do a partial water change, which is what this is, where I'm just basically getting the gravel vacuumed out and getting half the water changed out. I do this once a month, and then in between, every couple of weeks, I will do a full change, where I take the water down to about 2/3, I take out all the rocks, take out all the plants, I scrub all that stuff off. But since I did that last time, this is just a gravel vacuum and a water change. So I'm gonna keep punching the gravel here to get all this crap pulled out of here. And then I'll jump back when we're about done. As it's doing this, obviously it's pulling all the water out as well. So I'm not having to haul any buckets around the house. I'm not using a gravity-fed siphon vacuum. It just works pretty swell. As you can tell by the way those jewels are dancing in there, there's definitely some good suction coming out of there. So not enough that it's gonna clog this, this tube up with anything that it pulls up, but just enough to get all that free-floating debris out of there. And obviously watch out for your fish. They don't like to get sucked up by this thing either. All right, now that we've got the gravel pretty well vacuumed out, we're just gonna find a nice, safe place to let this rest on the bottom. And it's gonna finish draining this tank out by itself. So, like I said, I'll get it to about half full and then we'll start putting the water back in. All right, so we've got the tank down to just about half. Might be able to go a little bit more, but I don't want to risk shocking the fish. So all I'm going to do is take the siphon out of here. And then what I usually do is I leave it on, but I'll just kind of walk it back to the faucet to drain all this cruddy water out of here. So we'll take this back to the bathroom. All right, so back to the bathroom. Here is something that is critical to having any sort of aquarium. Tropical fish will die if you shock them with cold water, or if you shock them with water that is anything more than a couple of degrees warmer or colder than what they're currently in. So my trick, a digital meat thermometer. I will put this underneath the tap. I'll get this within a couple of degrees of 78 degrees, which is where my tank is currently at, and then I'll turn this thing on to fill the tank. So let me show you that. Looks like we're settling in right about 78, so this should be good. All right, so we got it to 78 degrees. We're gonna make sure this is off. We're gonna turn this to fill. Now this is gonna charge this line, but because this valve is off, it's not gonna flood anything forward. So leave it just like this, take it back to the fish tank. All right, another critical note here. When you turn this valve to on, it's got pressurized water and air in here, and it will come out like a shotgun blast. So make sure that you don't just crank this thing on, or you're gonna just blow the rocks and anything in here, throw it all around in a complete whirlwind. So slowly turn the relief valve to on. You hear the air coming out. There's the water. There you have it. Now we're filling the tank back up. No buckets needed. We'll let this fill and then I'll come back to you. It really doesn't take long for the tank to fill back up using that method, so while that's going, I'm going to reattach the filter. Now, I've put the suction cups back on the back of our filter here, and I'm going to make sure I situate it probably about 5 inches below the water line. Now this particular filter does have a wand attachment that if you want this to stick out above the water line, it will create like a spray effect into the tank, which I didn't like that. I found it to be rather noisy. So I submerged the whole thing, and this nozzle circulates the water around the tank, and then it pulls it back in the side here, and it keeps it kind of circulating as it aerates. So I'm putting that back in the tank, and then I'm gonna plug it back into the power strip below. As the water's getting close to full, it's time to add in the water conditioner. Now, we have decently hard water here where we live, so water conditioner makes your fresh water safe for the fish straight out of the tap. So follow the directions on the back. I need about 2 capfuls for mine. All right, so the water's full. We're gonna turn the nozzle to off. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this back to the bathroom, turn the other end back to siphon, turn this back on, and then I'll pull the leftover water out of the tube here. All right, so that's it. I disassembled the stuff at the faucet. I put the aerator back on. That's easy enough. Two things left to do is put the lid back on, put the light back on, and let's get her turned on. I'm gonna flip the switch. There she goes. Now you will notice that there's gonna be some sediment still in the tank that kind of is kicked around right now. 24 hours from now, the tank will be crystal clear as that filter starts to work its magic, and you're good to go. The temperature will climb back up to where it should be. Right now it's reading 78, which is perfect, so that's how we do it. Hey, thank you so much for watching the video. Hopefully you got some cool tips and tricks out of it and maybe discovered some cool products. If you liked any of the products that we worked with today, they are all linked below in the description. It takes you right to Amazon, pretty quick and easy to grab them. Also, please like and subscribe to the channel. This is my very first video, but I've got a lot more coming. I'm gonna do a tour of my smart home, talk about my solar array, the RV, all sorts of just jack of all trades DIY type stuff. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. As always, if you use any of these tips and tricks, please do, but don't burn the house down. That's the point.